Greetings and welcome to the June installment of the Atticus Advantage webinar series, Removing the Chaos from Your Marketing Strategy. My name is Jeff Hines. I'll be doing the introduction and introducing our co-panelists today. A little background about myself. I joined Atticus near the beginning of 2016, and I do mostly front-end engagement, helping attorneys deciding which program of ours might best suit their needs as they go through their journey with practice growth and with Atticus. Before joining, I was a national account executive in the audiovisual industry and a videographer in the construction industry. And a little bit about Atticus for background purposes. The company was founded back in 1989 to provide in-depth ongoing support and accountability programs for lawyers and firms that effectively increase gross revenues, reduce stress, develop greater career satisfaction, and allow more time for family and personal interests. Throughout the course of the webinar today, you may find a question coming to mind, and we certainly encourage you to ask it of our co-panelists. You have a few options available to you. First, you can use the chat function on your GoToWebinar dashboard, which for most of you is likely on the right-hand side of your screen. Simply type the message in. If you would like it to remain anonymous, no problem. Just let me know, and I'll read the question off to the panelists. Secondly, you can click the hand icon. Indicate you've got a question or comment. I'll call on you, unmute you, and you can ask your question for each of the participants to hear. So a little bit before we begin about something called the Practice Growth Diagnostic. And we're putting this up front because it is such a powerful tool and really where most attorneys begin with us as they begin their journey with Atticus. There's three components to this. First, the focused disc advantage. This is a behavioral profile. Every one of us falls somewhere on the spectrum that the disc is measuring, and it's essentially looking at your perception of the world around you, how you communicate with others, how you perceive communication from others. The second component is the practice assessment. This is a survey about your practice where we take 4 foundations of practice growth, which are time management, marketing, cash flow, and staffing. We break those down into a series of questions that the attorney simply rates on a scale, and both of these components are then taken into the third part and final part of the diagnostic, which is the advisor growth analysis. This takes the form of a phone call, usually lasts about an hour, but using those assessments, we start a very intense conversation, candid conversation about the goals the attorney has for themselves, their practice, which direction they'd like to take it in, and whether or not the attorney does anything beyond that call, they're still going to walk away with 3 most impactful actions to focus on 30, 60, 90 days out in terms of improving their own practice. There is a price associated with this. It is $295, and that includes both assessments and the hour-long phone conversation. It's very simple to register for this online. If that's convenient for you, you can head over to atticusadvantage.com and simply click on Let's Get Started. And this allows you to both schedule and pay for the diagnostic right then and there. And if you happen to find yourself on our primary homepage, atticusonline.com, we've got a tab located at the top of our page under products that we have dedicated to the practice growth diagnostic. And similarly there, you can schedule and pay for the call that way. So before we get started with the webinar proper, allow me to introduce our co-panelists. First, our Director of Client Services, Denise Gamez. Denise is committed to helping attorneys grow thriving practices and achieving maximum results. Joining back in 2011, she's been using her expertise as an industry consultant to help hundreds of attorneys assess strengths, overcome challenges, and qualify for the Atticus program that best fits their goals. And before joining, she was a legal marketer focusing on business development. And when not helping attorneys, she helps at-risk youth as president of the Team Gamez Foundation. Our second co-panelist, attorney and adjunct practice advisor, Mark Metzger. Mark has been practicing law for more than 28 years, and for 6 of those years has been applying Atticus concepts and principles to his own firm. It first introduced to Atticus in October of 2011, he simply attended a workshop, but that day and a half had a tremendous impact on him and led him to accomplish a more than 5-fold increase in his revenues, dramatically reduced his time in the office, and built his satisfaction with the practice of law to an all-time high. And all of this led him to where he is today, not only practicing Atticus principles in his own firm, but teaching them to others. So with that, I'll hand it off to our co-panelists, Denise and Mark. Welcome.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Mark, thanks for joining us today, too. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I think this will be fun.
All right, let's get off to a good time then. Jeff, go ahead and forward the next slide, and we'll get this program started. So the point of today is to let you know that your law firm can definitely become a gold mine for you, but you have to make the marketing a priority of it. So we are going to invite you to look at your practice just a little bit differently today. We speak with attorneys across the nation every day, and one of the common things we see is the mindset of, if I understand the legal work, then I must understand the business that does the legal work. And unfortunately, this can cause a fixed mindset that ends up creating for you a very good job, but not necessarily a great business. And so we want to shift that mindset from I have a job to I own a business and I want to develop this. So what I want you, if you have a pen and paper, I want you to write this down. Your marketing machine is almost as important as your legal work. Okay, so your marketing machine is almost as important as your legal work. Mark, can you expand on that and kind of talk about how you started developing your marketing plan and how you became so great at it?
Well, I think that the real hidden message in what you've said so far, Denise, is that reference to the word mindset. When a lawyer approaches his or her practice with the idea that unfortunately was embedded in most lawyers' minds very early on, almost every lawyer I know it's true for me as well, at some early point in their career, asked other lawyers that they perceived to be successful, what can I do to make this work? What can I do to get ahead? What did you do? And almost as a chorus, the answer came back, just be a great lawyer. And the problem with that is that locks you into a mindset that says, everything I need to do to make my firm get better requires that I be a better lawyer. And that if only, if I want more revenue, then I just need to be more of a better lawyer. I need to sell more of my time. And that can lead to, I'll use your machine analogy. It can lead to a machine where the law firm owns the lawyer rather than the lawyer owning the law firm, because it is feeding on the idea that the only thing that's available that makes the law firm work is more of the lawyer. In other words, if your only weapon is being a great lawyer, then your only tool to get ahead is more of you, and there's only so much of you to go around. So yeah, I think you are right on target when you say that the marketing machine is nearly as important as the legal technical skill, because that helps to break loose the mindset of, I have things I need to do for my law firm, which are separate from things I need to do as a lawyer in the law firm. And that distinction is all the difference in the world.
Yeah, we see it a lot with attorneys that if I just put in a little more work, I'll increase my revenues. If I give up my weekends, I'll increase my revenues. If I give up my nights, I'll increase my revenues. But they end up losing their life, to the law firm. And so we want to help you not have that happen.
Yeah, the astounding thing that most lawyers that haven't had the opportunity to think about this in a different way, or had someone help them shift their mindset on this, is they understand that that's true, but that's a commitment that they say that they're willing to make. They just don't recognize that there are other ways to get there.
Yes. So what are some of the other ways to get there? We talk about in Atticus the 4 foundations of practice growth. And it's sort of like a table. So you have these 4 legs. It's time management, client development and marketing, which is we're going to speak about today, then building your great team, staffing systems, and cash flow and profitability. And so we find that if one of these legs is weak, the table's not going to hold up and you'll collapse under the table. So we want to make sure that all 4 of those are strong. And we're going to talk about time management and marketing today because they tie together. If you don't have good time management, and Mark speak to this, if you don't have good time management, you can't possibly have effective marketing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the real truth of that statement can be revealed if most lawyers go back and look at their calendar over the course of the last 2 weeks. Few, if any of them, will find many, if any, entries devoted to a marketing activity. Their calendars are typically filled with either reminders of deadlines, if they're in a litigation practice, depositions and court call motions and so forth, status hearings are listed there. Meetings with clients and depositions will be listed there. If you're in a more of a transactional practice, there'll be initial client meetings, which, by the way, are not marketing. That's just a part of the intake process. Marketing is about feeding the funnel and getting a flow of work into the law firm that in part leads to those initial client meetings, and that may be a step in the marketing process. But marketing in its purest sense is about feeding the funnel of things into the law firm, not processing something that's already been into the funnel. So the point is, if you look back at your calendar and you find that you're not dedicating time to activities that are designed to feed the funnel, what that usually is a symptom of the idea that you don't yet have mastery of time management because you're not choosing to strategically use your time. A lawyer whose calendar has deliberately scheduled blocks of time to, for example, meet with their team to advance the ball on either internal or external issues or even the legal work in the law firm, is also a lawyer that's not going to have entries on their calendar for deliberate marketing activities that are designed to fill the funnel. They're not going to be having special time blocked out to work on projects that do not produce revenue but enhance the performance of the law firm. Instead, what you'll see most lawyers' calendars looking like is just the legal technical work. And when we say technical, what we mean is just being a lawyer. Working on client activities, drafting documents for clients, responding to briefs in a litigation practice, taking taking depositions or writing reports or memoranda of law. When you're in the great lawyer mindset, the temptation is to just do more legal work because that's what produces revenue, and that gets us back to the cycle you and I were talking about. If your only weapon is more of you, then every effort is to find opportunities to wring more time and attention out of the lawyer, and that means unless there's a mastery of time management to begin with, there isn't time to deliberately market.
Right.
And separate from that, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that's going to create that stop and go marketing, which is then equivalent to stop and go revenues.
It's like we're simpatico, because I was going to talk about porpoising, which is exactly what you're describing. What the temptation leads to then is to work until there's no more legal work to do, and then suddenly there's an abject panic that takes over the law firm of, oh my goodness, we have no work to do. Now I must market. And so then all the stops are pulled out. There's a marketing effort. A bunch of work comes in, and then the worst of all possible situations happens. The law firm now stops marketing because they quote unquote don't have time. Now they need to do the legal work. And that sets them up for a perpetual roller coaster of, I've got lots of work, I've got no work. I've got lots of work, I've got no work. And it's all directly related to the fact that the marketing is turned on and off. A law firm with effective time management creates the opportunity for deliberate ongoing marketing that never, ever stops.
And what we need to remind ourselves, really, there are 2 things that are the highest and best use of your time as a law firm owner, and that is the legal technical work nobody else can do, so the high-end legal work, and marketing the law firm.
I think that we need to amplify that point. There's a lot of lawyers that will hear what you just said, Denise, and think that as long as they're doing legal work, then that's their highest and best use. That's not what Denise said. If that's what you heard her say, that's not what she said. What she said was the high-end legal work that only you can do. There are any number of tasks that properly trained and qualified team members at a level lower than you can perform, either to assist you in getting the ball to the goal line, or in some tasks actually taking it over the line for you. Particularly if you build systems and processes that are designed to help you get that done in your specific practice areas, there are a wealth of opportunities for the law firm to begin earning revenue for work that other people do, not just the lawyer.
So Mark, what types of time management strategies did you implement when you started working with Atticus?
Probably the most important one is the use of the daily focuser. But I see your screen already is here talking about interruptions. I went through an interruption log process as well, and this is kind of a fun task. We have an Atticus interruption log, and Jeff, I suspect that if somebody emailed you after this and asked for an interruption log, we could get one to them. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So we'll make that offer to the people listening as well. But an interruption log, I mean, you could actually make one in a spreadsheet. It's just a set of columns on a piece of paper that identify each time you were interrupted in a day. And an interruption could be a phone call that you were given, or if you were silly enough to pick up the phone when it was ringing instead of let your staff answer that, you've interrupted yourself. By the way, when you take yourself off to Facebook just to check in real quick and 30 minutes disappears, that was you interrupting yourself as well. When you decide in the middle of work that you're doing to go wander down the hall and chit chat with one of your team members, you've interrupted yourself again. But you need to keep a log of your interruptions, because the interruptions are absolutely destroying your ability to be effective in the time that you have available. So the analogy, Denise, I think that's really powerful to use in these circumstances is to think back when you were a kid on a hot summer day and you got the garden hose out. Now, every kid that's played with the garden hose knows, because they eventually figure this out, if you put your thumb over part of the end of the hose, the pressure in the water grows, and in a lot more forceful spray of water is the result. And you can make the water go further. You can get your friends or your siblings, even though they're kind of far away, and it makes it more fun. That's what a great time management strategy can do, and it's what learning where your interruptions are so you can avoid them to allow a more concentrated focus, essentially the practice equivalent of putting your thumb over the end of the hose, to allow you to get more work done in a more concentrated period just by taking all those silly interruptions away.
And they say, the average interruption is about 10 minutes. So by the time you stop doing what you're doing, get back, answer the question, because it's, it's just a quick question, Mark. Just got a quick question. And then get back to doing what you're doing, get your mind back to where you were in the process. It's about 10 minutes. You have 6,
and
that's
an hour. The real key. It's getting the mind back in it. There's some great brain research out of the University of California, Irvine, that describes what happens when you interrupt someone that's in a flow state. Now, if you're not familiar with flow state, if you think back to some time you were working on a task and you were so absorbed in it that you had no idea how much time had passed. It's, one of the circumstances where if you're, in a law firm, maybe in litigation, you're writing a brief and you look up and 3.5 hours have magically passed. Most lawyers will describe that as a very satisfying bit of work. They were working very intensively, very, very highly focused, and they worked in a completely uninterrupted way. That's a flow state. You can learn to get into flow states more efficiently from time to time after you learn more about it. But the research out of California, Irvine says if someone is in a flow state and you interrupt them, on average, it will take them 23 minutes to get back in. 23 minutes. So when I talk about learning to shield yourself from interruptions, just adding that tool, weapon, whatever you want to call it, to your arsenal can be a phenomenal source of greater productivity in your law firm. And oftentimes it's simple things. Once you learn where the interruptions are, you can start to manage them. You may learn there's somebody that regularly just drops in on you. You need to manage that. Or that your staff has learned over the course of time that when they have a question, they just immediately run and ask you that, rather than putting those into designated time periods throughout the day in designated slots. The goal is not to make you unavailable to them, but rather to do it in a more organized fashion so that you have a block of time that you can work in an uninterrupted way and get greater throughput.
I hear a lot from attorneys that, well, my staff needs me and my staff this and my staff that. And it's like, they do need you. That's correct. But they don't need you immediately, unless it's some form of emergency. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you a couple of tips here. You're your first line of defense. So you need to go public with your staff and say, look, I'm going to start protecting my time so that we can all be more efficient. Your staff's going to end up liking it. They may not like it at first, but they're going to find that they're more efficient. They're getting more done.
Sure, because
So
you're
go
not
public
bugging
with
them.
it.
Sure, because you're not bugging them.
Exactly. Hold a huddle with your staff. So you can do this even twice a day, in the morning and the afternoon. Just get their questions out of the way in the morning, assign the tasks for the day. And then in the afternoon, you can huddle again for 10 minutes and answer any questions that may have come up. This, again, is eliminating those interruptions and that time. So instead of 2 hours of wasted time, you're having 20 minutes of effective meetings, right? Have them batch their questions. Then close your door and create the power hour. Mark, do you want to talk about the power hour?
Well, that's what I talked about. I didn't use those words, but when I talked about giving you an uninterrupted block of time to really focus on your work and be dedicated to blowing out as much work as you can during this block of uninterrupted time, 1 hour is absolutely magical. But once you've learned to do one, you need to move yourself to 2, because 2 hours of uninterrupted work by an effective lawyer it is remarkable what you can produce in that period of time, both in terms of quantity and in terms of quality. It will make an enormous difference in the throughput of your practice to have that uninterrupted time. I have 2 other tips that I think are helpful to getting that done. The first is you need to confront the demon that will be it may be in your mind, it will certainly be in your staff's mind, which is, but the clients will call and they will expect to be talked to. The truth is, the clients will almost never need to talk to you right now, this very second. They are calling because they need an update. In one of the things we teach the members in our groups is all kinds of proactive strategies to avoid those periodic check-in calls that clients will sometimes make. Because if you can head them off, it's a more efficient way of dealing with it. But all we usually need to do is retrain the staff to say, well, I'm sorry, somebody calls my office and I'm in a power hour. My team will tell them some flavor of, I'm sorry, he's in a meeting right now, or he's just unavailable right now. And then comes the magic. They will then say, but he's returning calls at 11:15. How much time would you like me to put down for you? I'll have him give you a call. So now the client is promised a call back at a certain time, which minimizes the possibility of me playing phone tag with them, which is another time saver, which frees up more of my time to be more effective. But we've also now moderated the client's expectations. They know they're going to get a call. They know they're going to get it at a certain time. And usually that will result in a dialogue where they say, well, I'm not available then, but I'm available here. So fine, we'll schedule the call at that point. But now I'm ready to have the call at that time. They're ready to have the call at that time. The call is more efficient. Nobody's wasting time waiting for calls to be answered or made or anything else. Clients rapidly fall into this, and they discover once they learn that they're going to get a call back that this works very well for them. And this works beautifully with the batch questions too. Some of the members of one of my groups, we worked on an exercise where we had them schedule a power hour, and then we worked with their team leaders to provide a block of time immediately after the power hour was over. The first 15 minutes belonged to the staff, so they could get their questions answered, because inevitably they had client phone calls in the interim. So they could use that time, know that they had some time with the lawyer to get their questions answered, and then the call scheduling happened. And by the way, that call script, if the first one is offering a call at 11:15 and that person says, I need 10 minutes, then the next time slot that's offered to somebody will be 11:25. And we keep rolling it forward. So people have a real clear expectation of when they're going to get a call back. The secondary magic that happens on this, though, is that in the dialogue about what can I have Mark be ready to talk with you about when he calls you at 11:25, my staff will usually use that as a hook to say, oh, you know what, you don't need to talk to him about that. He would give that to me, and he would tell you to do this, 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 and this. Let me send you that document. Let me get that piece of information for you and get it back to you. And then that now becomes a problem that my staff has addressed and solved. Realize that in many instances, the clients call the law firm and ask for the lawyer only because they don't know who else to ask for. So just because they called you doesn't mean that you're the one that needs to resolve the issue or answer the question that's being asked. A well-trained team can do a lot of that for you.
Absolutely. And the last tip is, in order to stick to this, you have to understand what the value of your time is and why is it valuable to you. And it could be an hourly rate. It could be you missed the gym, you didn't make your child's soccer practice for the 4th time. So create some visual reminders around your desk. Put pictures up of what's important to you, so that you remember why you're adhering to the power hour, why you're adhering to the time blocking. So just whatever's important to you, create that visual reminder around you. So the staff is part of your marketing. From the minute a prospect or a client walks in your office, it should be this great experience for them. So you want your staff to be great marketers. How do you do that? Mark, how did you go about kind of training or retraining, getting your staff to think of every moment, every phone call is a marketing opportunity?
Well, I think there's 2 steps to that. The first is exactly what you just said. To say to them the words, every interaction we have with a client is an opportunity either to impress the client in a way that will cause them to make a referral for us or to give us additional work to do. And that will often lead the staff to say, well, but how can, me having this document signed for somebody and getting it notarized for them, how is that going to lead to more work? And the answer, of course, is it's about the client experience. What feeling are you creating for the customer that comes into your law firm? What experience are they having that's unusual, that's something they would talk to somebody else about? We teach a process of scripting a client experience, and that'll vary from law firm to law firm how that will work. But the first part of it is just giving them a unique experience that makes them feel like, this is a place that treats things unusually. It causes them to talk about it and to share that information. For example, in my office, they get presented with a menu after they sit down. We don't walk them into the conference room and say, would you like a drink? We sit them in the chairs, and they're presented them with a laminated menu of the beverages that we're offering them. That blows people away. What did it cost me to get that? $1 and 83 cents for the plastic cover on it. But I've created an experience for people that come into our office. They don't get that experience in other professional offices. And there's processes that we follow for seating people and how we refer to people and interactions with them about what to expect, the scripts that the team uses when somebody arrives early. Sometimes people arrive early and the lawyer thinks it's their job to now interrupt themselves from whatever they're doing because the client is here. We don't think 2 shakes about if I have an 11 o'clock appointment, somebody comes at 10:45. One of the first things that client's going to be told is, Mark wasn't expecting you to 11. I'll see if I can get him here earlier. And then we've managed the expectation that I'm just not necessarily available instantly because there's other things that need to happen, and their anticipated time slot wasn't beginning until 11. The clients don't react negatively to that if you script it.
And that can directly impact your satisfaction, your staff's satisfaction with the law firm. Right.
The other thing is, when you're telling your staff to look for opportunities to be great marketers, sometimes you need to teach them when's a good opportunity to make a request for a referral. I'll give you 2 examples. My 2 parts of our practice overlap with each other substantially. We help people buy and sell homes. In Illinois, lawyers are still heavily involved in that. And we have a substantial estate planning practice. So when we're having a home buyer that we're working with in the process, and we're at the stage where we're talking about how they're going to take title. Well, if they're not taking title in a trust, that's an opportunity for my team to have a discussion with them about, do you even have an estate plan at all? Mm-hmm. And not surprisingly, opening that dialogue with people that don't have an estate plan often leads to the realization that they know they needed to do that, but they never knew who to ask. And by then, they've already developed a relationship with us. We get a lot of those appointments and turn them into cross-sell opportunities. So my team will look for opportunities to mention other things that we do. And when we wrap up either an estate plan or a home sale or a home purchase, there's another reminder of the other services that we provide and marketing opportunities galore as we send them wrap-up documents from even a real estate transaction. Our team is constantly looking for an opportunity to remind them of other things that we do.
And that's fantastic. And it all starts back with that client experience, like you said. And all of these things are going to impact profitability of the firm, because if now they have this, they don't know that you're a good lawyer or a great lawyer. They don't know that you have all these certifications. They know how they felt when they were in your office.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant point. Most customers of a law firm are not equipped to evaluate the quality of the legal work that's being done. What they are equipped to evaluate are the things that they can describe to other people. Was I treated well? Was it a nice experience? Was I made comfortable? Were my questions answered in a condescending way or in a helpful way? You know, those are the kinds of things that the clients remember. They remember the experience, and so they judge the quality of the work exclusively on the things that they can measure, which all revolve around the experience.
Absolutely. So of course, the follow-up question we're going to get after we talk about that is, well, that sounds all great, but how do we build that great marketing team? So it's, you know, I hear it all the time that hiring a great team is probably one of the biggest obstacles attorneys face. So now you've got this great team, but how do you turn them into that marketing machine for you? So because you need every person on that team marketing for the firm constantly.
Yeah, and I think that part of it is helping them understand that literally everything they do is marketing. You know, you first need to remove the mindset that they will have that marketing is about asking for more work. It's not. If we adopt the philosophy that I think is correct, that everything the client is capable of judging about how they feel about this experience is influencing your, you know, the marketing goal, which is to get more work, then everything they do is a marketing opportunity if they think of it through the lens of, I need to make this client feel special and important.
Correct. And when you're hiring, you know, we have a book, Hire Slow, Fire Fast.
Imagine that.
So you want to take your time when you're hiring your staff. You can use case management software to help you. You can, you know, and really it's about having fun, maybe creating some signature events or something to have fun with it so that your staff has fun with it as well.
You know, one of the greatest things about that book, Hire Slow, Fire Fast, is when you leave it on your desk, your team freaks out.
I knew you were going to tell that story. So again, it's about building that great marketing team, but it's not impossible to do that. So cash flow and profitability are directly impacted by your marketing, obviously.
No question.
But we need to understand the difference between generating revenue and creating profitability. So how did you approach that with your firm?
Well, you need to know what your law firm does and what it costs you to produce that result. A lot of law firms don't do that. They pay attention to, well, I got hired to do a certain legal task and I got a check for that. But I would assert that if you got a $250 check for 10 hours of effort, you probably would have been better off devoting your time to something else. So you need to start to think about your law firm as not just a place where you can be a lawyer. And then, we're back now to what we first talked about. The temptation that lawyers have is to say, I just need to be a great lawyer. So if somebody calls me with a legal problem, I will tell them I'll figure that out and I'll get it done for you and I'll work really hard to give you a great result. Often the most profitable work that a law firm does is work that has been carefully thought about so that a system can be built to move that kind of legal issue or legal project through the law firm in a way where the lawyer has to spend the least amount of time on it as possible. Now, some of that could be that you're using document assembly or document automation software, because that will reduce the lawyer's errors and allow them to produce a document more rapidly. But the better strategies are ones that take the lawyer out of everything that is not absolutely critical that the lawyer be the one that does it. So, you know, take an estate planning context, for example. It's probably critically important for the lawyer to meet with the clients to design and develop the plan and then to come up with an overall structure. But that doesn't mean the lawyer needs to then do all of the drafting. Presumably they've built a system that allows them to efficiently assemble a document, and those tasks can be passed on to others and folks can be trained to do that. You know, one of my favorite stories to tell is I was in a mode where every time one of the clients needed a tax ID number, either for an estate or for an irrevocable trust, or, you know, maybe they've created a business, I was the one that was constantly having to go to the Secretary of State, the IRS website to get that done, until one day one of my legalists says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting a tax ID number for this new LLC." And she said, "Why am I not doing that?" Which was, I think, one of the most brilliant questions of all time from a staff member. And I said, "Only because I've never bothered to show you how." So at that point, I brought her over, showed her how to do that. It was the last time I did that task. So there are a lot of things that we are doing as lawyers in our law firm simply because we haven't trained somebody else to do it.
Right.
And all of those are opportunities for the cost of completing a legal project for a client to be reduced, because the more time the lawyer spends on it, the more it costs the law firm.
Absolutely.
So,
delegating is key to profitability. Making your staff profitable makes you profitable.
Yeah, so understanding profitability versus generating revenue really boils down to the success of the business success of a law firm, which is measured ultimately by what is your return on investment as the owner of that law firm. You know, if you can't make more money running a law firm than you can by giving your bank you're giving your money to the bank and getting, you know, interest back in a CD, then close down the law firm and buy the CD. I mean, you need to make a profit. That's what the law firm's there for. And profit is what's left over after the costs of producing that profit are taken care of. The game is not about generating more revenue. It's about generating more profit.
Absolutely. And like we'll see a lot of firms too, where they'll, you know, start advertising on TV, and they'll start using their website a little bit more and spending money on all of these things, and they're getting more leads in, but they're not profitable leads. They might be C&D clients. They could be tire kickers. They may not pay their bills. And so want to talk about why client development is so important and identifying what is your A client? Is it a certain type of case? Is it, you know, obviously it's someone who's going to pay on time. They're going to follow directions from you. They're going to show up to meetings on time. So Mark, you're a rock star at this. So talk about how you decided what's my A client and how do I keep that exclusivity?
Well, you know, one of the tools that we use, you know, both in Atticus and in my law firm is a client intake matrix, where we will score a client on a scale of desirability on a bunch of different factors based on the kind of case that it is. You know, and take a simple example. We don't practice personal injury, but this one's real simple for most people to think through. A PI law firm might evaluate a new case based on a set of factors that is, how's the liability in this case? Is it, you know, clear, or is it we're going to have to fight like a dog to prove it? A clear liability case on that matrix, that would be an A case, and one where we're going to have to really struggle and work hard to prove it, that's probably D on the liability scale. What's the potential fee on this? A big fee would be an A, a small fee would be a D. What's the collectability of the defendant? You know, the clearest liability case in the world against somebody who's judgment proof is probably not a great case. So you might want to evaluate what's the potential revenue opportunity here, you know, the chance of getting paid, score that on an A through D basis. And, you know, every law firm will choose a set of factors that'll vary from case type to case type that vary. But you want to have a systematic way of evaluating a case so that you can know whether or not you're bringing in and accepting the work that your law firm will be able to make a profit from doing. And sometimes, and this is frightening to lawyers, that means recognizing there is power in focusing your practice to a limited set of things rather than practicing threshold law and accepting everything that comes through the door.
That's one of our symptoms of poor client management. Poor client development actually is the practicing of the threshold law. Also the small revenue per case, because that could be an indicator too of a lack of selectiveness in choosing your cases. And it could be a result of a fear of where the next file is going to come from. So it's that I don't have time to market. Oh, I got to market now, and now I don't have time to market anymore. And so you're just worried about where's the revenue going to come from.
Yeah, I've regularly heard lawyers I work with say, well, I don't have time to market right now. I have too much work to do.
I hear that all the time. I do. And it goes right back to the time management. So if you have effective time management, you will have time to market, and delegation. So making sure that you aren't doing things that aren't the highest and best use. The very few client referrals. I mean, client referrals are where you will get your best cases from, and from other referral sources. So if you're getting referrals from existing clients, past clients, because they had a great experience with you, and if they were an A client, they're probably going to send you an A client. If you start building up those referral sources, they're going to understand what your A client is, and they're going to send you A clients. And it goes into understanding too the laser talk. So know what to say, who to say it to, or how to say it. And Mark, this is another thing that attorneys struggle with is they don't want to sound like a cheesy car salesman. They don't want to make the ask. So how did you kind of train yourself or get you to where you were easily making the ask?
Well, first of all, it's one of those things that once you do it 3 or 4 times, you'll realize that the voice in your head that says, oh, I'm going to be perceived as sleazy. After you do it 3 or 4 times and you realize that you didn't get that reaction from the clients, that voice kind of gets shut down. So strategy 1 is do it a few times and you'll be shocked at how easy it is. Strategy 2 is to focus from the client's point of view what it is that you do. You know, clients, for the most part, don't give 2 hoots about whether or not you represent people in class actions involving Series 42 licenses. They have no idea what you just said. If instead you said, I help business owners in the financial advisor space defend themselves against lawsuits that are designed to destroy their business. That's a world of difference to the client. Now they can see themselves in that role. I help families purchase and sell their homes. I help families protect the wealth that they've spent their lifetime creating so that it's available to their children and their grandchildren is a much better message than I help people write wills and trusts.
Right. And write this down if you do have that pad of paper in front of you, write this down, because the laser talk is truly what I do, who I help, and why I'm unique. So what I do, who I help, and why I'm unique. And it can just be a quick thing like what you were saying. That's going to cause somebody standing there to ask more questions.
And never assume that people know what you do. I can't tell you how many times I've had lawyers tell me that a case that is literally in their wheelhouse was referred away by a friend or relative because they forgot that you did that.
Yep. So once you start getting the marketing activities planned, and Mark mentioned that earlier in the webinar about making sure it's on your calendar, that marketing activities are planned on your calendar. And we recommend 3 a week minimum. If you think about it, if you market 50 out of the 52 weeks in the year, that's 150 marketing touches over the year. So it's a
which is about 147 more than most lawyers.
Exactly.
Per year.
So once you start doing that, you want to start tracking everything, because it's impossible to improve on anything that you don't track. So this will create accountability for you and your team. Track your activities, track the referrals that the activities produce, and even track your referral sources so that you can see, back to that client intake matrix, so you can see who is sending you A clients. And because some referral sources, Mark, are going to send you C&D clients.
Sure. They don't Sometimes they send them not because they're deliberately sending you cruddy clients, but because they don't know what a good client looks like for you.
Right. So you want that tracking system there, and you can use your case management software, relationship management software. Put in your referral sources the same way you would a client. So you put them in there and put key things. When you have those conversations, when you're having lunch, when you get back to the office, have your assistant type in your notes from that meeting. So I know that Mark Metzger likes scotch, so that's in his record for me. I also know he likes bourbon, so that's in the record for me. So you're not going to remember everything about every single person you talk to. So it's good to have those notes in there to remind you, oh yeah, they don't really drink coffee, so sending them a Starbucks gift card would be a bad idea. So anything else you want to talk about on tracking? And
I think that you need to get in the habit of teaching your team in the first interaction they have with somebody that calls your office for the first time to find out how they got to you, so you can track where that happened. One of the both frustrating and exciting things about marketing is you never know exactly what marketing activity will produce what client. It is completely true and 100% provable that if you do no marketing, you will get no results. But what you don't know is what results you will get from each effort. I mean, I've lost track of the number of times I've had somebody come to me with a scenario like this. One of the things we do is some public-facing seminars that talk about various different aspects of estate planning. And those will get mailed out to people as an invitation to the seminar, and sometimes they're dinner seminars. I've had people come into my office carrying an invitation to one of my seminars from 2 years ago. They did not receive the invitation. They were mentioning to a neighbor or over the back fence that they need to get an estate plan dealt with, or mom's got an estate planning issue. And the person runs back inside, they're talking to, runs back inside and says, here, this is the guy to talk to. And they give them, the person that gave them the invitation didn't even come to my seminar, but me mailing that invitation out put the idea in somebody's head that I was the right person to talk to about those things. And a marketing piece that I did not target at anybody that landed effectively from the day it was mailed out became the entree for a client to come to my office, and they never received it in the first place.
So how
Happens
do we,
all the time.
yeah, it does. And that's what people don't stop to think that, oh, I did talk to somebody, and maybe that person at the networking event, or maybe that person at the cocktail hour isn't going to ever hire you, but they might know somebody, they might be able to make that introduction for you. So you always want to, as Mark Powers says, never, ever, ever, ever stop marketing. So you always want to be doing this. So how do you take some action items away from this? So how do you get more business over the next 90 days? We don't want you on the 90-day think about it program, right, Mark?
Well, the results are guaranteed, but they're not necessarily the best results.
They're definitely not the best results. So we want you to write down one thing that you're going to do over the next 90 days that will bring in more business for you. So what is one thing? What do you think, Mark? If somebody is sort of in the stop and go marketing phase, or maybe they haven't really done any marketing, what could be the first thing where they could start and really start to make an impact and a difference?
The simplest first step for most people is to simply make it a routine part of the file closing process for you to ask the client for more work, either because you've got something else, another service line. For example, when we help somebody buy a home, once that transaction is concluded, we at that point let them know, if we didn't already have a discussion with them, that we have an estate planning practice. So there's a natural opportunity to do an ask there. If you're in a law firm where you're not having multiple service lines, you could do an ask that sounds something like, we've really enjoyed working with you, Denise. You were a great client to work with. You were responsive. You were friendly. You were polite. Anytime we needed something from you, you were able to get that. Our experience has been that our best clients know our next best clients. So where can I find another one of you?
Mm-hmm.
So, you can just make an ask of that sort. And that one, by the way, makes people feel great. But, you have to come up with a way of saying it that fits with your personality and you're comfortable doing. But you will be shocked at just how effective it can be to actually ask if you're not doing it.
And if you don't ask, again, guaranteed results.
Exactly.
And you mentioned something too, authenticity. So we always emphasize marketing with authenticity. So just be yourself when you're doing it. Don't try to, if you're not a funny person, don't try to be funny. Just really present who you are, and you'll get a lot more business that way.
Yeah. So back to the example I gave, if whatever your personality type is and the way you're interested in saying it, just tell the client sincerely what you enjoyed about working with them on that, and then use that as the basis to say, where can I find more people like you?
So how do we take action? Definitely calendar the time now. So start thinking, so today's Thursday, so start looking at your calendar for next week and say, where are three things that I can do, 3 marketing touches that I can do next week? And I meant to mention this earlier, if you have 5 referral sources, we want you to get to 20 really good referral sources. So if you have 5, start to think about in terms of sort of a dream team. If you're a coach, what 20 players do I want on my team? So start identifying who would be on your dream team, and then start reaching out to them and set those appointments.
There's an important point here, Denise, which is that what we're talking about here is building a network of referral marketing. There's lots and lots of marketing you can do as a lawyer. I mean, you can mail stuff out, you can buy time on the TV or the radio, you can put search engine ads out, and you can do email advertising, and there are a million things you can do. But referral marketing is by far the most effective use, particularly if you're short on time, the most effective use of your time. Clio, the people that publish the very popular case management software, just released their legal trends data that was collected all throughout 2017. And the #1 source of people choosing a lawyer was a referral from someone else, and it wasn't even close to second place. I mean, second place was almost half as common, and search engine stuff didn't show up until number 4 or 5 on the list. You know, the first was referral from a friend or somebody else I know, and the next one down on the list was referral from another professional or lawyer that I know. So, you know, you put those two together, they collectively were over 70% of all the referrals that had been made or the sources of new business. So focusing on referrals is where it's at. That's going to be a huge gain if you just put your attention there.
Absolutely. And you can see the list here. So, you know, some of the best referral requests, like you said, start out as a compliment or a thank you. Hey, I really enjoyed working with you. This was great. You know, I'd love to work with your friends or family. Or, and the big one that I hear, one of the things that you want to do is always send that thank you card. So I was talking with an attorney a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, oh, well, my best referral source is a friend of mine, so I don't send her thank you cards. And to me, that just made no sense. I'm like, well, she's your friend. You should send more thank you cards. You know, so don't ever think of it as, oh, I don't want to send you a thank you card because I know them so well, or
and
I don't want to send it.
Think about this from your own point of view too. I mean, how often do you get a hand-addressed envelope in the mail with a handwritten card with maybe 2 or 3 sentences in it that says thank you? It's so rare that it's one of those things that really lands with great impact. So if you can handwrite a thank you note to somebody, my goodness, you're putting yourself way up at the top of their list of people to remember next time that there's somebody to refer, because they will associate the positive experience of being thanked, you know, with you on that.
Absolutely. And it's more impactful, way more impactful than an email. People are like, well, I'll send a thank you email. Well, a handwritten thank you, it's like a lost art. So people don't really do it very much. And so when you do it, it really stands out. And it's another reason to you're staying top of mind with your referral sources. It's another reason to get your name across their desk. So we have some recommendations to go from here. Just take a deeper look at your practice and your leadership and management skills with your staff. And so really training them up. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of a peek into your firm at kind of where your performance level is. And for some of you, it might be a wake-up call. Right, Mark?
Absolutely.
So now just the best action you can take is to learn how your unique strengths can be leveraged and increase the profitability through referral-based marketing by getting out there a little bit more, getting your name out there a little bit more. So if you're ready to make a change, I would definitely recommend signing up for the Practice Growth Diagnostic that Jeff discussed earlier. Mark, did you do one of these with us? How did it impact you just going through the diagnostic process?
Well, the tools that result from the diagnostic give you a clear understanding of what strengths you have that you're not exploiting, which was probably the most powerful takeaway for me. You know, once you know, the Focus Disc Advantage, for example, lets you know where your natural strengths lie. And then from there, when we can identify which of the 4 major systems are lacking in some way in your law firm, now you've got a strategy to begin implementing. I need to focus here. I need to build that. You know, one of the things I do with the members of one of my groups is say, you know, let's nail your time management. Let's get that done, because if I can get that done, I can start making room for marketing. Then I'll show you how to make effective use of your marketing. And now that your marketing is working well, we're going to focus on improving the quality of your team or growing it. And now we can focus on where do you go find great people? How do you train them? How do you build systems that allow you to move the ball forward in your law firm? You know, and then you can start to worry about, how do I manage cash flow and how do I turn a better profit and what opportunities are here, there, or elsewhere. But all of these things are in a constantly rotating upward spiral that requires that you do good foundational work so that you can build a stable platform to keep growing from. And the whole thing begins with a practice growth diagnostic, so you know where you're strong and where you're weak.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of ways you can sign up for that. You can visit us online. Again, the investment's $295, but you can visit us online to get started. Or we are going to have some folks following up with you from this webinar to see if you have any needs or questions. And then so you can talk to them, and that'll be Jeff and Larry and possibly myself and Daniel following up with you guys. So if you have any needs coming out of this, we can help you. And we do, Mark and I have a very special offer today. So if you do sign up for Practice Growth Diagnostic from this webinar, we are going to send you the time management book for attorneys. So we can get you started off on the right foot.
That is the top selling time management book for lawyers, period.
It is.
Both on Amazon and otherwise.
And it was written by our co-founders, Mark Powers and Sean McNallis. So it's definitely straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. They created the systems, and this is a great read. And the running joke is always, well, I bought the time management book, but I didn't have time to read it. So it's really not that. I think you can read it in a weekend. And then the key part is that the implementation after reading the book, of course. So having somebody hold you accountable.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really important point, Denise. I think that lawyers are fast conceptual learners. We've spent way too much time in school with people rewarding us for showing them that we're smart. And the temptation when you're exposed to some of the material that you and I talked about here today is to say, okay, I got it. I understand what you're talking about. This game is not won by understanding anything. It is 100% about what you do to implement and use this information that makes the difference. And that's, in my case, signing up for a team and being part of a group is what moved the ball forward for me, because then I had an accountability structure that actually caused me to do the work.
Yeah, you don't want to come back and tell 29 other attorneys you didn't do the work.
No.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to toss it back over to Jeff to see if we had any questions come in.
Sure. So there was just a few comments, and that was actually pertaining more to audio quality from some of the participants. So far, though, no direct questions pertaining to the material yet, but we do have a few minutes left. So now for the participants, if you do have something that's come to mind, now's the time to ask.
And what are the two ways they can do that again, Jeff?
Sure. So there's on the right-hand side of the screen, I'll expand this. This provides a dashboard that allows participants to either type a question into me, and there's also a hand icon that they can click on, and I can unmute them and they can simply ask their question to you both.
Okay, fantastic.
Well, don't be shy, because we'll be happy to answer any question you have.
Yeah, even if it sounds crazy.
I probably have asked my share of crazy questions in my life.
I've heard a few of them, actually. All right, well, if nobody has any questions, I guess we can wrap it up. But definitely take the call today from Jeff or Larry when somebody from Atticus calls to follow up on this webinar, because we are definitely here to help you. Those two are brilliant minds, so they can answer any questions that you may have. Some people aren't very comfortable doing it live on a webinar, so definitely take their calls today.
Yes. What should you have staff do versus what should a lawyer do when marketing?
I would say that when it comes to marketing, there should be no hard and fast line between what the lawyer does and what the team does. It should be a function of what they're comfortable doing and what, in some cases, particularly with the team members, what they're trained to do. Some people will have a natural knack for it, and some will need coaching. So part of your role as the owner of a law firm in working on your business, not just in it, is to help build and grow the capacity for your team to make a good ask and to recognize a good marketing opportunity and have them pursue that. Unlike as is the case with the legal work, I mean, plainly there are certain avenues. For example, you're not going to have a non-lawyer give legal advice. That would be problematic. There are no equivalent limitations on what others can do for you in the marketing context. So different people will have different strengths. Some of them, their strength will simply be sounding friendly on the phone and being friendly when people come into the office, and that will be their contribution to the marketing effort. And others will, be more ruthless about turning it into a game of trying to find an opportunity to ask a client for a referral. I've seen that work remarkably well at law firms, where they'll build a game for who can make the largest number of asks of clients in a week for a referral, and then they discuss how they did that and laugh at some of the results and so forth. And just making it a game makes it that much more exciting for everybody.
Yeah, that goes back to that, making it fun for your staff. And also, if you're planning like a signature event, all of the planning should go to the staff. So calling the venues, figuring out where you're going to have it, you should not be looking up prices of food and talking to vendors. That should be a staff task, and not an attorney task.
I'll give a great example of a signature event you could do right now. The Mr. Rogers movie just came out. It's a wonderful documentary. You would be surprised. Most people don't know that you can call the multiplex movie theater near you and for an incredibly reasonable cost, basically buy an auditorium for a time slot. And you then get to invite all the people who come, and they get a ticket and popcorn and a drink for a fixed fee. And then because you invited them, you can stand up in front of the room and talk to them and thank them, and do a minute and a half of what your law firm does, and thank them for coming. And they will then associate you with the wonderful feeling they have from watching the Mr. Rogers movie. There's a signature event in 30 seconds. So.
There is one final question that's popped up, and I think this could probably be the last one. It was, how do you feel about drip marketing?
I love drip marketing. Drip marketing, if you're not familiar with it, is designed to periodically remind people who it is and what you do. Now, if the drip is well designed, it will simply feel that way to the recipient. Oh yeah, I remember these people. This is what they do. A badly designed drip will irritate and annoy. And so you need to have care in how you design and plan that. And the best way to make it a positive experience is often to deliver value each time. So maybe it's done in the form of a newsletter or a video or a weekly or a bi-weekly report that gives them an update on a couple of things that were in the news that relate to your practice area. And then there's the reminder of what you do, so that they feel like they're getting something more than just marketing.
All right, well, I think that's going to wrap up today. Again, feel free to email me or Jeff if you want the worksheet on interruptions, the interruption log. And hope you got something out of this. I hope you had something great to take away. And Mark, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. Take care, everybody.